Hello and welcome to another beautiful episode of Healthy Living, reaching you from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Olamide Al-Hassan. You already know we discuss health stories all the time on Healthy Living. Now, in recent years, there has been a growing recognition of the importance of addressing men's mental health. While societal norms often discourage men from openly discussing their emotions, it is crucial to delve into the unique challenges and experiences that impact their mental well-being. Today's episode is focused on the exploration of the factors influencing men's mental health, the stigma surrounding it, and the role of psychologists in fostering a supportive environment for men to seek help and express their vulnerabilities. By understanding the distinct nuances of men's mental health, we can work towards breaking down barriers and promoting a healthier dialogue surrounding their emotional well-being. So today we have a clinical psychologist, Abiodun Emmanuel Arogundade, to discuss breaking barriers, exploring men's mental health. Welcome to the studio once again, Abiodun Arogundade.
Thank you for inviting me, ma.
Thank you for showing up. I understand that you have a very busy schedule, but thanks for still showing up here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so because we're discussing men's mental health, there's been a lot of stigma around it where men believe that they should be strong and never speak about it. In fact, from childhood, it's more like what is being taught to them. It's like a message that is being passed down from generation to generation. Now, and I think part of the things I saw this year is about breaking barriers. So can you please give us insight into this breaking barriers and how we begin to explore mental health issues, especially when it relates to men?
Okay, thank you very much for bringing this up. So breaking barrier is all about getting men into the door. And in this instance, the door we're talking about is mental health. Okay. Right? So there's a lot of advocacy concerning mental health, child mental health, women mental health, men mental health. But unfortunately, men mental health seems to be the least. And to break the barrier is to say that men too should take into cognizance their mental health. They should speak up about their mental health. So breaking the barrier is just men normalizing seeking help when it comes to mental health. Okay.
Just like you said, normalizing, which means that somehow it used to be abnormal. There's lots of societal stereotypes and expectations. How does this impact men's mental health?
Okay, so number one thing that stigma does is teach people to be suppressive of their voice, to not speak up. Just let's take, for example, stigmatization about women. We know there's a lot out there, how women should dress, how they should look, how they should behave. And we know how damaging these stigmas are. Just at the same rate, it's as much as damaging for men as well when they're stigmatized, especially when it comes to mental health. So how does it affect their well-being? I think, firstly, we should define what mental health is. I think that will help us to get an insight into what we are discussing. So, according to WHO, the World Health Organization, mental health is defined as not the absence of illness, right? It's a state of well-being. So, in order for an individual to cope with daily life stresses, right, to be able to learn, to be able to work, to be productive, and contribute to your community, you have to have a sound mind, right? So let's take for instance, I woke up this morning, I took my bath, had my breakfast, head to work, left my workplace, drove here, now I'm talking to you. All of these things I had in mind. The only reason my mind could arrange these things is because it's working as it should, right?
Of course.
So now let me make it clear that everybody has mental health, right? As long as you have a thinking brain, whether it's functioning right or not, you have a mental health. So that's why it's important that will take cognizance into our mental health. So how does stigma impact men? It destroys their mental well-being. And when that is not functioning well, they will not be able to be productive to the society.
Is that the only thing it does to men, actually?
It's just, let's say, for instance, that is just to cap it in a box. Because let's say, for instance, when a person is paralyzed, physically and mentally, what else can the person do? When you are unable to be productive to your society, what else can you do? So when you are not constructive, what would you be? You'll be destructive. So that's basically it.
All right. Can you please highlight some of the pressures that men face in the society? I'm sure as a clinical psychologist, you've had experiences with some of them. But no, the first question will be, do you even get male patients come to seek help? That's the first question I want to ask, because I want to be as real as possible in this discussion. So I thank God, as an expert in the field, I want to know, do you get male patients? Is that what I can call them? Can I call
patients, yes.
Do you get male patients coming to seek help?
Yes, we do get male patients coming to seek help.
But looking at the ratio of men to women, what would you say?
It's very low, to be candid. It's very low, and mostly when a patient comes seeking for help, usually it's involuntary, in the sense that someone, maybe a friend, a family member, a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, I noticed something is going on. Are you all right? Right? And they said, okay. Because, okay, let me take it back. Let me bring it to a very simpler time.
Okay.
So, when something is wrong with our physical body, let's say we have headache or we have a cut on our leg, our brain is telling us that we're in pain. Something is wrong, right? So what do? We go to the hospital, we get these things treated. So that's the physical health. But when something is wrong with the brain, what tells the brain that something is wrong with the brain, right? So, of course, when you are stressed, you are depressed, you are in this low mood, and you lost interest in your usual activities, at first, the brain would recognize that something is wrong. But because our brain does not like lacunas, it means the brain does not like gaps. It always finds a way, because our brain always works. So it always finds a way to fix the gap. It finds a way to cope with these issues. So it becomes normal. So once the brain adapts itself to those negative coping mechanisms, it becomes normal for the brain. So now, what tells the brain that something is wrong with the brain? That is where family comes in. That is where friends comes in. So when there's a shift in behavior of a person, the person is not seeing it. Who can tell is the person next to such individual. So mostly, that's why I said, mostly when people come in, it's not voluntary. They are advised to come in. Someone saw that something is going on. But like you said, and in my experience, the larger percentage of people coming in female, but of course, yes, male comes in. And usually, they are forced to come in.
Okay, now, talking about them being forced to actually come in to seek help, let's talk about some of the things that they get to experience, maybe like signs and symptoms that eventually makes them come and seek help. Because I know that there are lots of people watching us right now that are going through some things, but they don't believe that they need help. Okay. So I would like us to highlight some of the things, signs, symptoms that they get to see, that they get to begin to experience, that makes them know that it is time for me to actually seek help and come out as a man and admit that I need help.
Okay, thank you very much. So firstly, let me say that there's no one generalized symptom. So we have, in mental health illnesses, we have different illnesses. So we have depression, we have anxiety, we have eating disorders, we have bipolar, and etc. So how do you know that you need help? What are the symptoms? Like I said, there's no one symptoms for one illness, but if, let's say for example, you are the kind of man that you enjoy watching football, all of a sudden you are no longer interested in watching football. So you like going out with your friends and have 1 or 2 drinks. All of a sudden you don't enjoy their company anymore. Mind you, this is different from sadness, okay? We experience sadness from time to time, but sadness is a state whereby we get to, just like happiness.
Of course.
When we're sad, maybe we lose someone or something terrible happened, we are sad, we get over it, we move on. But when it comes to a mental illness like depression, it's different. So to be clinically diagnosed as a depressive person, it's characterized by a lot of symptoms like low mood, loss of interest in activities that you usually enjoy. And usually when you notice that you are in this mood every single day, at least twice in a week, consistently for 2 weeks, then you should realize that something is going on, something is not right. So that's when you should seek for help. You don't even have to wait for that long time to come in. I mean, we do assessments. Even as you are functioning right now, if you just realize, oh, I just want to know how my mental well-being is doing, how my mental state is, you can come in for assessment. We have tools that we can use to measure, okay, this is how you are doing on depression level, this is how you are doing on anxiety level.
There are tools?
Yes, yes, we do. They are not machines, but we have our ways of...
Okay.
Yes. So like I said, if you notice that there are changes in your behavior, again, grooming, let me emphasize on that. Usually you are the kind of man that you like to look good, you love to smell well. All of a sudden, you don't care how you smell, you don't take your bath regularly as you used to do. Something is wrong somewhere. Then you know that, okay, I need to ask for help.
Wow. So now, there seems to be a lot of things happening in the society that looks as though men are supposed to chest it all. Responsibilities here and there and all.
Yes.
But let's talk about some of the subsequent pressure that men get to experience that affects their mental health in their personal life and professional lives. The ones that actually make an impact on their mental health. Could you please just give us a few of them?
Okay, so let's take, for example, fatherhood. All right. So in our society, we already have definitions of what a good father should be. A good father should be this, a good father should be that. Deviation from these standards that the society have already provided for us, even when we were not there when these things were defined, it means we are not a good father or we are not a good man. Mind you, this responsibility includes emotional support, financial support, while you still have to balance work. You understand? All of these could become stressful factors that could impact men's mental health. So yes, fatherhood is an example. So let's take, for example, to career-wise, right? When you are working in a certain organization, we often heard about alpha males, all that, yeah? All of those things. And men love to compete, naturally, of course, innately. And there's nothing wrong with that. But because they want to reach some peaks in their career, what do? Don't forget the fact that they have their family to hold why they are chasing this peak in the career. So what do? They take on more roles. They work more hours. No holiday, no resting. And when you are not resting, when you don't take time off, it builds internal stress. And when something builds up, what happens? When there's not a channel to release these stresses, what happens? It explodes. Yes. So this is another way men get pressurized into having a very, very bad mental health.
You know, there's a story that somebody once told me. He said most of the time, whenever growing up, what they tell them is, for instance, you get beaten, your parents beat you, the girl, and then the boy. The parents tell them, shut up, you are a boy, you shouldn't be crying. So that has made him to the point that he cannot express his vulnerabilities. He keeps it to himself, no matter how terrible and how bad. So he feels like that's what has impacted his health to the point that he now has blood pressure issues. How true could this be? Does some of these mental health challenges that has built up over time affect the health too?
Absolutely it does. So men don't cry, right? It's a very common words that we throw around in our society. And so usually when someone, or when I heard someone say, men don't cry, my first question is, but when the male child is birthed, is being born, he cried, right? So where does this notion come from that men don't cry? When they born you, you cry now, as a male child.
You find them lose someone and they still keep quiet. Like they don't express the pain, the anger, the anguish. They don't express them. They don't release them.
So when a man in our society is showing any sign of vulnerability, any sign of weakness, is told to man up, even when they are crumbling inside. Right? But unfortunately, the only thing man up does for anyone or for any man is build a culture of silence. Right? So there's something my mother used to say. She would say, permit me to say it in my language first, and I will interpret. She would say, Bomi Okpao Lorukwa Aison. Translate as, secrecy is the name of illness. So when something is wrong with you and you are silent about it, what eventually happens? You die in silence.
Sure.
So, okay. I saw something on the internet yesterday, on Instagram. A boy and a girl, they should be around maybe 10 or age 10, 11. So it's a sort of a competition organized in a very familiar setting, I guess. So they were put inside a band, like a huge rubber band. So a table was placed by that end and another one just opposite each other, and a bowl of meat was put on these tables. So they were meant to be dragging each other, so whoever gets to the table first gets to eat. It was fun, watching it ordinarily. But something piqued my interest. There was a man at the background. He just kept shouting, "No let woman beat you. No let woman beat you. Would you allow a woman to beat you? Come on, come on." Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't be supportive, right?
Yes.
But do you know, I'm talking about children of age 10, 11.
They're building up.
Do you know what that kind of statement is doing to the psyche of that boy? No, not the boy alone, even the girl in question. So the boy and the girl, they are both victims. So saying these things to a male child while they are small, don't cry, man up, like I said, it builds a culture of silence. And when you are silenced in the face of illnesses, it kills you. Yeah.
You know, there seems to be a lot of societal expectations when it comes to men.
Absolutely.
A lot of them, to the point that it begins to affect their health every day. Now, just like the example you gave just now, the psyche of that little boy, don't let woman beat you, sort of language that people tend to use, is the same thing almost everywhere. And in fact, you find that maybe because men are egocentric in nature, it tends to affect the fact that they barely come out to admit that they need help.
Okay.
Do you think that that is part of what is affecting it? Societal expectations alongside the egocentric nature of man, maybe?
Okay, so when the child is born, we are all born with ego, whether you are a man or you are a woman.
Okay.
Right? So there's something called nature and nurture. So nature, there are some things you are born with innately.
And there's some things you acquire.
Some things you acquire, the environmental factors, your family, your school teachers, everyone. Some of the things we pick up are not because we're naturally born with them. It's just societal program. Yes, ego contributes a lot to how men perceive things or how they should behave in the society. But mind you, what builds these egos up is the societal construct. It's the way they've been told to behave. Just like women have been told to walk in a certain way, to do this, to do that. It's the exact way, same way that men, these things affect men when they grow up. So what do? Like I said, if you are not given anything to be constructive with, what you do is self-destruct. That's just what it is. You are right. It absolutely contributes to how men seek help, especially when it comes to mental health.
Okay, there are also some other aspects that I want us to look at. The cultural implication on men's mental health. I want you to comment on that because we live in a Nigerian society where culture seems to be all that matters. Truly, every culture matters, but you find that culture actually matters as a key pointer. Now, you find a situation where a man will say, I am a traditional man. So when a man says, I'm a traditional man, it simply means I am cultured, I am well-rooted in my culture and all of that. So let's look at some of the impact of culture on men's mental health too.
Okay, so you see, this cultural impact, it still points back to stereotype and stigmatization, right? Okay, let's look at our society as an African person or as a Nigerian person, to be precise.
Okay.
It is well, if you would agree with me, it is well accepted and practiced that man is the breadwinner of the family, or should be the breadwinner of a family. Right? We all accept it, we all practice it. But my question is, what if your wife owns a bakery? So as a man, you are the breadwinner of the family, but what if your wife actually owns a bakery? Right?
Yeah, so you are winning the bread from her bakery.
So does that make you less of a man?
Some people feel they could be.
But it shouldn't be. But it doesn't. Now, this is where community engagement comes in and psychoeducation, as I would call it in my line of work.
Okay.
Right? We try to teach people that these things, it affects you to the degree that you allow it to affect you.
To the degree that you allow it.
So, it's in the mind. What people don't realize is your reality is the product of your thoughts. Your thoughts affect your actions, it affects your behavior. So when you allow this, I'm the breadwinner, this and that, in fact, there are stories whereby women have to hide their
Assets.
They're assets. It's very saddening. In fact, recently I read about a woman that she said she acquired a property and she's living in that property with her husband and kids, and they are still paying rent. I mean, even you as an individual, as a person, you work hard to acquire something. Now, even the point there was, she said now she wants to get a car, but she doesn't know how to get the car or where to keep the car, even if she buys it. Imagine what a person is going through because she can just not open up. These are societal, cultural stereotypes.
In fact, talking about those cultural stereotypes, there's still more, but there's still more questions I have for you in that aspect. But let's quickly go on a break and then we can continue the conversation.
Okay.
Hi, viewers. I'm sure you're learning one or two things. Let's go on a quick break. We'll return. The conversation continues. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. You're still on to Healthy Living and we're still discussing men's mental health with clinical psychologist Abiodun Arogundade. All right, so once again, we were talking about the cultural implications on men's mental health and you gave some examples. The thing is, the reason why I said I wanted us to delve a bit more into it is there's actually a story that I didn't read it, someone told me. She said she had a great job, a good paying job, and she was working in the same office with her husband. And eventually there was a promotion that was coming up and the promotion was supposed to get to the guy. Well, she thought it was going to get to the guy, but it didn't get to the guy, it got to her. And that was what ruined their relationship. Because the guy felt like he should be the one to handle such positions. You're supposed to be beneath me as my woman. You're not supposed to be above me. I'm not supposed to be reporting to you. You know, that was what ruined their relationship. In that kind of situation, is it because that's like, I feel like it's his mental health that has come to affect not just his professional life, but also his personal life. In this kind of situation, should it have been that the man should have owned up? At what point should the man have owned up to realize that, oh, I think I need help? At what point should he have owned up? Was it immediately he realized he started feeling so terrible about it? Because there are some persons that they don't even feel so down all the time, but they tend to feel bitter about a few things when it comes to partners, friends. Does it mean that they're already beginning to have mental health issues too?
Okay, thank you for that question. So, like I mentioned earlier, there is no yardstick or one single symptom that could categorize someone for having a mental health issues. In fact, right now, based on what you tell me, I can't even diagnose. I can't sit across a person looking at him or her and just diagnose him of any mental illness. That's not how it works. However, in this context, you see, there's a lot of notions that we are wrong about, actually. In our society, I will use Nigeria as an example. So there's this, women should be submissive. Women should be submissive. You should be under your husband. I'm an African man, this and that. You see that term, submissive.
Submissive.
It's been abused. And it's not even actually what it means, that a woman should be submissive or a woman should be under you. No, that's not even what it means. History of Africa, and as an African person, now I'm not talking about pre-colonial era or post-colonial era. I'm talking way before our way of life was distorted. The term submissive, you are not submitting to a person. You are submitting to a cultural idea. So you and your wife, you are both submitting to a cultural idea. And in this sense, what is the cultural idea? An African cultural idea, which means that you as an husband, you are supposed to love your wife, you are supposed to protect your family, you are supposed to respect. And in return, as a wife, you can do the same. In fact, during these times I'm talking about, there's nowhere in the history of Africa that women should not be in a position of power, that women should not be a provider. We have women, we had women that are kings.
And women
in fact,
who go to farms.
No, not even kings, queen. We had women that are queen.
And operated in their full capacity.
Exactly.
True.
So when you are saying a woman should submit, no, you as together as a couple should be submissive to the idea of your marriage, to the goals of your marriage, what you both want to achieve for your family. It's not you must be under me. Now, that's what happened. Imagine what that man felt. Of course, we've had stories where men had to sabotage their wife, successes.
True.
And it's they need checkup.
You know, because I had to ask this question because you find situations where there are men that are distorted when it comes to their mental health, but they refuse to admit it. And they tend to want to run and head a family that way. Like you said, a man that has mental health issues will tend not to be productive at all in the society.
Yes.
Which means that he might make wrong decisions. He will make terrible decisions. And he still wants to be the wielder of the home's will.
All right.
So how do you begin to handle this kind of situation?
Okay. Thank you very much. So one thing that we should realize as a man is you are not a machine. You are not God. You can't possibly run everything at your will, right?
Absolutely.
When you have a partner, now let's even forget the English terminology of what partner is. You have someone with you that you claim to love. Like I defined, like I stated earlier, not even defined, I stated that when something is wrong with the brain, what tells the brain that something is wrong with the brain? It's the people around you.
True.
When you find yourself in such position and your partner is telling you that, see what is going on. Like I told you, usually people don't admit that they need help. Men especially don't admit that they need help.
I agree.
But of course, there are ways that these things can be communicated to them. But when you are being told, how do you handle it? This is where emotional intelligence comes in. As a human being, not just as a man alone, as a human being, every day when you wake up, the number one thing you should strive to acquire or to increase is your emotional intelligence. It helps in all types of situation, in all areas of our lives. So in the situation you describe, what should the man do? This is where emotional intelligence comes in. If it's intelligence enough, emotionally, you would realize that, okay, I'm actually dragging my family down. There's nothing wrong to step aside and let your partner take the lead.
Exactly.
Get some rest. This is not a competition. You are in a marriage. It's not a competition. Whatever position you've assumed, why, it's just like going on vacation. While you are resting, do you feel your partner will steal this position away from you? No. So what they should do is to accept that something is wrong and seek for help.
All right, but let's look at this other aspect. Are there effective ways to get men to open up, effective communication techniques that can get men to open up to their own vulnerabilities?
Okay. Yes, there are ways that we use. One of that is what we call language adaptation.
Okay.
So that's a terminology in my line of work. What that simply means is that we use the bro code. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the bro code.
You understand? What if the psychologist is no male?
Okay, you can still use it.
There's still bro code between a male and female?
I'm just using bro code as an example of language adaptation.
Okay, I get it.
You understand now? So, for example, language adaptation is simply using men's phrases. For example, you are a female psychologist, I'm your patient. So we're having a discussion, and you say to me, I understand what you are going through, and as a man that you are,
Okay.
the man that you are, those are main phrases. So that's language adaptation. Understand? So those are the ways that we use, those are one of the ways that we use to communicate with men when it comes for therapy. Another one is that we acknowledge their emotions. We let them understand that we can hear you. How you are feeling, it's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You are allowed to feel exactly how you feel. It's just as simple as that.
Okay, but that's when they get to the stage of coming to you. Excuse me. That's when they get to the stage of coming to you. So what about from home? I mean, from their immediate environment. How do the people around them, their loved ones, how do they get them to either seek help or even open up to their own vulnerabilities?
Okay, so that's supporting them in the sense that, number one is be patient. Let them know that you hear them. Let them know that you are present. Be empathetic. Don't try to fix them. You know, it's a common thing, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with that.
That is
you know.
new.
Yes. Naturally, women are natural, right?
And we always want to fix things.
Exactly.
Okay, that is new. I'm sure you're picking something, viewer. I'm sure you
Yes.
heard him. Don't
So
try to
just
fix him.
Don't fix him. Listen to him, acknowledge what is going on, and point him to the right direction,
Okay.
which is to seek help. In fact, if that is like going the extra miles, you can point him to the right resources. Oh, I saw this thing online. I just read about it. It seems interesting. Can you read? It's as simple as that. Those are ways that we can actually get them to come for help from home, I'm talking about now.
What about those that are in denial, extreme denial? Because I think it's common to have people in extreme denial, like, I don't need help. You're the one who needs help. We have even people that have issues in their marriages and they tell their spouses categorically, I don't need help. I feel like women tend to open up more and tend to admit that I need help compared to men.
Yes.
So what about those ones that are in extreme denial, if there's anything like that?
Of course, there's denial, but okay. So there's a saying that you can take a horse to the river, but you can't force the horse to drink water. But what we don't realize is, if we create a healthy thirst in that horse and we take it to the river, it will drink water more than expected. It's because the horse is not thirsty. That's why it's not drinking water. So
Okay, so until there's a lapse for it.
Okay. So I saw something of a recent again, where some women, they went to greet the Oba of Ife, the Oni of Ife. And it was, in that clip, it was telling them that all women are witches. Right, so what it meant by that is, so it was explaining that witches is all about manipulation.
Okay.
And manipulation is what women have innately.
I hope they won't come for you.
I'm not the one that said it. I'm not the one that said it, though. You can find the clip on Instagram. I think there's this popular actress in that clip, Yabo Ojo.
Okay.
Yes, she even interjected that, Kabesi, do you mean we are all wishes? So I'm not the one that said it, though. It's Kabesi. So,
okay, he said he's not the one. He's quoting.
So I'm just quoting him. So what I'm trying to emphasize on is women have the ability I don't want to use the term manipulate now. You understand? To persuade.
Maybe if you say women are persuasive in nature, we would accept that more than manipulative in nature.
Right. So that's what I'm sticking with.
Yeah. Okay.
So women have the ability to be persuasive. But when that doesn't work, what can you do? Unfortunately, you can't do anything. Like I said, you can't force a horse to drink water. But when a healthy thirst is created in that horse, it will drink water. So when the time comes, the man in question will receive the help that he needs. With the help of prayers, he will listen.
All right, so let's talk about preventive measures now. What are the preventive measures that can help men? In fact, yes, men. Since men is our focus today, we've always talked about women. So let's talk about preventive measures that can help men maintain a healthy mental health state.
Healthy measures. So when it comes to mental illness, again, there are no set of measures that you can use to prevent yourself, because some illnesses, the risk factor in those illnesses are biological factor, environmental factor, things that you cannot control, right? However, generally, how do we improve our mental health, or how do we stay in a state of where mental health being, and is that eat well, have good sleep, exercise regularly, practice meditation. When you feel you are stressed, take a step back, try to relax. These are simple things we do in our daily lives that can help.
Okay. So
in fact, breathing alone, sorry to cut you, breathing alone is more than enough. So, yes, we breathe, but in my line of work, there's something I usually call first aid for psychologists. So, you know, in our physical health practice, there's first aid. I said what I called first aid. Okay. All right. So
I wanted to tell you that you have to release that tip, that first aid.
Yeah, I will say, I'm about to get to that. Okay. So that is breathing. So we breathe every day, but we don't know the power it carries. However, of course, we are aware of take a deep breath, but there are techniques of taking a deep breath. Okay. So let's say, for example, you want to practice this deep breathing I'm talking about. So there's 3 steps involved.
Okay.
You breathe in, you hold, then you release. 3 steps. Breathe in, hold, and release. So, and there's 4-4-4 strategy, which is you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you release it for 4 seconds. So as you are releasing it, you can even feel your breath coming out of your nostril.
I feel like practicing, but I think I'm going to do that later.
We can do that right now.
Okay, 4 seconds.
4 seconds.
How do I get to time myself? Are you counting?
It's okay. You can just count with your finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you take it in. 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, that feels good.
Yeah. So that's first aid.
Oh, really?
Yes. Just breathe.
Okay. I'm sure somebody just speaks that. I think I want to try one more time.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's relieving. All right, great. Thank you for this first aid practice.
Okay.
I think I really love what I feel. So now let's talk about how you give psychoeducation, like what you said you call it in your field. How do psychologists give this psychoeducation to people, create the awareness? Because there is very little to, there's like 0 to little awareness when it comes to men's mental health. In fact, some persons don't even know that there's a mental health awareness day for men in a year. I think whenever it's International Women's Day, you hear women celebrate this, women celebrate that, women do this, women do that. it's like, let's talk about men. In fact, the first time I saw that men were mostly celebrated was this year's Father's Day. So you can imagine this kind of thing. So how do you create this awareness as psychologists? I know it's part of your responsibilities, away from just sitting in the office and waiting for patients to come to you. What other things can you do, or what other measures are you putting in place to get people to know that, especially men, that they can open up on their vulnerabilities? They shouldn't always bottle up and end up, you find men even dying before their wives. You don't always bottle up. You shouldn't always bottle up. Yes. There are ways for you to express yourself.
All right, so thank you for that. So usually when people come to us for treatment, what they want is for us to fix them back together, get them back to their daily life. But what we try to do is try to improve their mental well-being. We try to drive them to see how to live a purposeful life, how to be functioning properly without resorting to maladaptive coping mechanisms.
What are those maladaptive?
So maladaptive coping mechanisms are negative ways of, in fact, I think I should talk just briefly about, because it's one of the reasons why men don't take cognizance of their mental health, and it's one of the reasons why men usually don't seek for help.
Okay, please go.
So maladaptive coping mechanisms are negative ways that people cope with what is wrong with them. In the case of men, because men are expected to be strong always, to be stoic and all of that, and don't show emotions. So what do? They resort to taking alcohol, taking drugs, get into gambling, and get themselves in high-risk sexual behavior. And what do I mean by high-risk sexual behavior? They started sleeping with every single woman they meet. As long as they find that woman, even if they don't find the woman attractive, they just want to bed the woman. And they're always often careless. There's no protection involved. So this maladaptive way of coping is one of the reasons, because it's easily accessible. Alcohol is everywhere.
Accessible, yeah.
Yes, it's easily accessible. Alcohol is everywhere. You can pay for sex if you have the money. It's everywhere. So men resort to these things rather than seeking for help. Right. So how do we help? Is one of the things we do is engage in community leaders. We engage with community leaders in order to create awareness in the locality of such leader. So we go out there, we run campaigns, and we try to educate people about mental health. In as much that our work, I know you might not know this, but psychologists' work is called help work. So we are helping, right? So one of the things we do, like I said, is just to create awareness. And mostly the people who are at the forefront of this campaign, actually, this awareness, are NGOs. I've worked with several NGOs, even here in Abuja. So we have NGOs like the Mandate Health Empowerment Initiative, run by Mr. Abiodun Understand? These are organizations, several organizations like that are running a campaign on this mental health issue. So that's all we can do, at least for now.
Okay.
And we are appealing to our government to take this thing serious and at least include this awareness in their budget so that we can have a mentally healthy Nigeria, we can have a mentally healthy Africa.
Because I believe that when we're all mentally healthy, I feel like we'll have a better and a peaceful society.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about how the impact of the relationships and friendships, families that men have around them. What role can people play to help in, assisting men when it comes to their mental health?
Okay, so thank you for mentioning family. So there's something we call social support. There's something we call social support, and one of the primary social support is our family. You understand? And how can family help? Please reduce the pressure on men. The world is enough. The world is full of things everybody is facing, even as men. But imagine your family could even, now there's positive to family, there's negative to family. Quickly, the positive side of the family is they are your number one support. For example, if you are in a good time with your family or not in a good time with them, when you are in trouble, they have it innately in them to want to help you. It's natural for family to want to help you. That's the positive side of having family support. The negative part is your family can actually be your trigger for mental illnesses. So, for example, your family could be the one saying that you are so age, you are supposed to have acquired this, you are supposed to have been this, look at your mates, look at your this, look at that, look at that. So please reduce the pressure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I almost got overwhelmed, like, because most times it's actually the pressure that we put on men. Our expectations of men is probably too high, and we need to reduce it. Thank you so much, Abiodun Emmanuel Arogundade. We really appreciate you today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Our viewers, I'm sure you've learned a thing or two today. Please reduce the pressure that you put on men. Reduce the expectations. They're humans like you. And men, you're free to be vulnerable. Nobody's going to hold you for it. That's all the curtains on today's show. I am Olamide Alhassan. I'll see you again next week.